Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rniverse channel. I am RN, and today we're going to be discussing why I believe Rimworld is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to colony sims / sandbox games. But before we get into that, thank you to my channel members Morgan, Oscar Borjas, and Alex Billings. The extra monetary support is always appreciated. If you'd like to become a channel member as well, click the join button below this video. Now, if you've never played Rimworld before, I'll sum it up as a colony sim where the victory condition, story / quest-wise, is to escape to the stars and leave this Rimworld, a world on the fringe of civilization. But honestly, I've never even attempted that. I've never even finished one playthrough, but I always keep coming back because it's just so much fun and so well polished and detailed. So let's get into some of these games' strong points that I want to highlight. Part 1. Story. While Rimworld is an open sandbox and you can literally do anything you want, it strikes a good balance of giving you structure through quests and giving you certain settings before the game begins. The first thing is choosing your scenario. Now, looking at my own game, I have about 15 scenarios to choose from when I start. I will preface some of these scenarios are based around DLC, but it still gives you a good variation of conditions to choose from. You can start as a tribal band with no tech, or that worships tech because it doesn't understand it. There's a scenario for starting off as bandits and every faction dislikes you on the map. And there's even random ones such as being a sanguiphage, which is like a vampire in this game. And you start off with one slave to feed on for blood, and then you can try to survive from there. There are even mods to add more scenarios, but mods will be discussed in the last section of this video. The next aspect of your story is your storyteller. The game has an interesting setting where you choose what kind of events you want it to gear towards and how it progresses in terms of challenge and reward. I don't think I've ever seen another game do this, but I'll show you some of these storytellers so you understand what I'm talking about. The basic storyteller in this game is Cassandra Classic. It's pretty straightforward. The longer in game, the bigger and bigger the challenge gets at a consistent pace over time. It's pretty standard. You start off as a level 1 guy, you get a level 1 challenge. But then you have some like Randy Random. Randy doesn't follow rules. He'll generate random events, and he doesn't care if they make a story of triumph or utter hopelessness. It's all drama to him. They even give you a warning underneath it about how you might just get wiped out, because obviously some scenarios are impossible. And just to contrast Cassandra Classic's storyteller model of that consistent progression of challenge over time, I'm going to show you Igor Invader. Igor Invader holds no regard for boring stories about thriving colonies. The only story worth telling is the one of combat. He'll send raids every 2 or 3 days, rewarding players who deal with them swiftly and punishing players for any losses. This storyteller doubles all damage types, but also warns you about upcoming raids 12 hours before they happen. So that's some of the examples of your storytellers and what they can bring to the table. Don't forget that there's also a difficulty setting as well. And then there's also the options of whether or not you want to be able to reload anytime, or if you have to commit to whatever happens. Obviously after this you have to choose a location to start on a world map, which has its own details of like what temperatures can range there, kind of weather or seasons, what building materials are available, and then you have to choose your colonists, but all these things we'll go into in the second part. Part 2. Detail. The main thing that makes me excited to talk about this game and that makes me respect it so much is just the amount of detail that goes into everything. You'll see this all throughout the game, but even your colonists, they all have backstories, traits, passions for certain skills. There's different genetic types because they have pigskin people. They have people that kind of look like Wookiees. I apologize, but I can't remember the name right now. And then you have like baseline humans. There's even different religions and ideologies. People have liked and disliked foods, fluctuating relationship statuses with all the colonists and visitors that come through, and they even have medical conditions. Which brings to the next aspect that's also super impressive with its amount of detail, which is the health tab. Your character has a health tab, and it shows everything. The health bar of individual toes and fingers, medical conditions on specific organs, digestive problems, getting the flu or like food poisoning, burns or any scars that might itch and like lower their mood because it irritates them. I mean, you can even see here in my current run, my pet guinea pigs, some of them are pregnant. You can see how old they are, You can even see their life expectancy. I'm curious because this old guinea pig I have is already past his life expectancy. I've never seen a character or pet pass away due to old age, so I'm kind of curious to see how that happens. You can even see how many days until they have the baby, or you can even see on all your colonists how high or low temperatures they can handle in the world. You can even read details in a tab called Log next to the Health tab that'll explain what recent events led up to a current animal or person's condition, which I kind of like to read and check out after a fight to see how everything kind of turned out the way it did. Sometimes you can read certain things where like a bullet missed them, it hit something behind them, or this punch just landed in the perfect spot and it knocked him out. It's just little things like that. I can't really describe everything this game has to offer in a digestible amount of time, but again, there's just so much like detail that it just makes this game a 10. Part 3, replayability. The biggest thing that adds to this game's longevity is that it's always kind of new in some way. They really struck a good balance of personal freedom and random events, whether that be in the raids that come to your map or random creatures that appear for you to possibly tame. I also really like the ruins that you can explore from time to time and hunt for loot. It's one of my favorite mission types, besides possibly fighting mechanoids, which is like another thing from DLC. I think the next playthrough, I'm going to try being a bandit camp, but that is kind of the beauty of it. You could be a super soldier, you could be a caveman who never understood technology, or you can even become a lonely mechanitor, which is people that are in charge of robots and supervise them. But no matter what, every single run does somehow end up being different. Part 4, DLC. Now I wanted to highlight this game's DLC because I know sometimes games could catch a lot of flack for overcharging for DLC or not bringing enough value to warrant their DLC. Not to mention, I've also brought it up a couple times previously in this video. But I know recently of writing this, like Escape from Tarkov had that scandal where like they released a $250 Unheard edition that people described as pay to win, and that was just an add-on of content such as like PvE. And then they try to deny people who purchased a already $150 edition that came with a season pass to all future content from receiving it for free, which was really ridiculous. And all this to say that Rimworld's DLC is not overpriced and does add some great features. They currently have 4 DLC add-ons. They have Royalty, Ideology, Biotech, and Anomaly, and they're all priced around $20. I won't discuss everything they add, but it does include new factions, being able to have psychic powers, being able to capture and study SCP-like monsters and learn occult Lovecraftian stuff through them. You can even read through their full editions on the main menu if you decide to check this game out and then you're curious to what they bring to the table. And now, while I have been highlighting things that I love with this game, I will point out some places I want to nitpick while also discussing the next section, which is mods. Part 5, mods. Now, one of the game's most enjoyable aspects is the additional content you can add with the thousands of mods there are. The game does have a lot of great things, but I'll state some aspects where I think it falls short, and I'll give you some example of mods I use to fill those gaps. Now, the number one thing that I want to talk about is storage. The game doesn't have a lot of storage options in its vanilla state. Most of your storage will be done through shelves, which don't really stack much, and when it comes to weapons and clothing, they don't really stack at all, as each weapon and article of clothing is kind of considered its own stack, like a unique thing. So I added a mod for storage. I added better weapon racks, I added medicine cabinets, wardrobes for clothing, fridges, large crates to just really stockpile raw resources, and meat hooks to store all your hunts in one location, and also managing your inventory around the place. It's also nice to have some variation, as they can get kind of dull staring at identical shelves everywhere. It's like suburbs that have the same copy and paste houses. It's nice to have storage that you can look at it and understand what its function is for, like a bookshelf. A bookshelf just holds books, but shelves can just be copy and paste and hold anything. So it's nice to have more storage options with a little bit of nuance. Number 2, commerce. The second thing about this game, if you never played, is that most business is done through trade or barter, and silver acts as a currency. And while other factions can visit to stay for the day or bring a trade caravan to barter stuff, the interactions can still be kind of bare, which is why I added a mod called Hospitality, which lets you interact with guests more, make friends with them, possibly even recruit them away if they like all of you enough, and then you can make money from their visits by opening stores, hotels, casinos, setting up vending machines. It adds a extra layer of like diversity when it comes to interacting with the world, getting some extra income, which is great as well considering I also added a mod for there being a more detailed banking system, a stock market, and trading system in game. I also added social bubbles, which you can see with the animal interactions and people's interactions with speech bubbles over their head. So it feels a little more alive while everything is going through its actions. The third thing I want to bring up is that if you're not a fan of that D&D style, like percentage of success, kind of roll the dice kind of gameplay, that is present in here, mostly in combat. It's similar to XCOM, you know? Your character can have a skill from level 0 to level 20 in this game, but even at 20, you could still miss a bullet landing where you need it to, or a hit landing where it needs to, or you can even fail at like a surgery and possibly tank somebody out by accident. It's just a heads up for people that aren't a fan of that type of mechanic where you can just kind of miss something even if you feel like it should be a guarantee. And I'm going to close this out by stating that you can add mods for pretty much everything. New storytellers, scenarios, weapons, animals, furniture, and more. So this is the end of the video, but I hope you guys enjoyed watching and that if you don't already play Rimworld, you might give it a try. I've been playing it for maybe 3 years now. As always, subscribe to keep up with my future content. Please like the video if you enjoyed, and I am RN. I will see you next time. Peace.